Well, welcome everybody to the latest edition of From the Constituency. I'm Brian Calfano, and we're joined by our Ozarks First contributor and 1041 KSGF morning show host, Nick Reed. Nick, good to see you, buddy. Thanks again for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And we want to do something a little different on this show. We want to pump your show for a change. We tell everybody here on KSGF, a lot of folks are probably already loyal listeners, or they check you out at least from time to time. But I wanted to check in with you and kind of get your talk radio view on some things going on around the country and around the Ozarks. So you got two topics, you tell me, that have been pretty salient in the last few days on the show. Why don't you let her rip?
Yeah, well, two of them talked about recently. One, and it's been national news, Walmart made this decision, and they presented, or at least the way the media is presenting it, and Walmart's not denying it, it is to a degree in response to the recent shootings. And they've decided that a number of things they're going to do. One, they're going to stop selling handguns in Alaska, which is the only state that they're selling them in. Currently, they haven't sold them in the continental U.S. for some period of time. And then throughout the rest of the country, they're going to stop selling ammo for handguns. The CEO in a memo indicated that they're going to continue to focus on firearm owners who are hunters, and so they're going to stick with that.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Were these latest shootings done by handguns?
It doesn't matter. I mean,
but what's the point? I don't understand that.
I know.
I mean,
it's appearance. Well, and this is part of what I was talking about today. Now, they did do one other thing that I think is somewhat separate, and I'll talk about that in a second, is they said that, well, we are going to still allow people to conceal carry, but we ask you not to openly carry. Okay. So, now, listen, as a private business, I believe in property rights. You have the right to set any rules you want to. I have no problem with that, with you setting them. I may disagree with them, but you have I don't even consider it anti-Second Amendment, because to me, Second Amendment, well, this is just the truth, that's in the context of what the government cannot infringe upon, not what private businesses can. What I have a problem with, we're seeing more and more people who are supposed to be in leadership positions of power, authority, that are making decisions that are not based in any sort of reality or common sense, but instead they are simply reacting to this emotional current, if you will, and other than that, it doesn't make any sense. There's no meaning to it. And we talked about this on the show. In my show, we take a lot of callers, and people were asking questions that make a lot of sense. Like, for example, if you really believe that banning handgun ammo is going to stop mass shooting, shouldn't you stop selling all ammo? Why would you? What sense does that make? So to me, what this indicates is that the decision makers at Walmart who have decided that they're going to do this, they know it's not going to make any sort of difference. I suspect that they looked at what is profitable for them. They've noticed that handguns, they sell them in Alaska. They probably don't move a lot of those. When it comes to ammo for handguns, probably don't move a lot of that. Most of what they move is for shotguns and rifles. And so they're keeping all the stuff that they make money on. But here, we're going to look as if we are responding.
It's a PR move. Yeah, right.
Yeah, but they're not we do it all the time. And this is so aggravating, because these are not adult decisions. We no longer, and I do see this as a symptom of a larger problem that over the past, 15 years or so, we have devolved into, and that is making decisions that are not based in any sort of critical thought. For the longest time, thinking was something that as a human race we did in order to advance ourselves. We would deliberate, we would debate back and forth, not for the purpose to see who won, but we would debate in order to come to, hopefully, the best conclusion possible as to how it is to answer a certain question. We seem to have no interest in that any longer. We make these decisions that have no impact at all on what we claim we're looking for an impact with. And to me, this is just another symptom of a real problem we have, where we have stopped making decisions based on common sense and critical thinking. Now, I do want to just one caveat to that. The decision to say or to ask shoppers at Walmart to not open and carry, but to continue to allow people to conceal carry. The idea behind this is not safety, but it is to make sure people who are uncomfortable around firearms don't get freaked out. Now, I'm not uncomfortable around firearms, but this is why I think it's goofy. If I'm uncomfortable around firearms, I would much rather be able to identify who around me has them instead of creating an environment where I'm told, oh, people can have them, you just can't know who it is. That seems backwards to me. But again, most of this is it's emotionally driven without any real thought behind it. And to me, that's my area of aggravation, not whether or not a private business. I think they have the right to do whatever they want to in that context. But it just doesn't make sense. And we're seeing this more and more.
All right. Then the second bugaboo for you this time of year, apparently, is that we've got universal income happening.
There are a number of experiments that are happening. Some of them city-run. Some of them, well, even outside the U.S., there have been a couple of countries, and they've given up on it because it hasn't worked. But there's a little more of a focus on this because Andrew Yang, he's one of the presidential, or one of those running for the nominee on the Democrat side. He has a plan that if we vote him president, he's going to give everybody free money. He calls it a freedom dividend. And I think every American will just get $1,000. Now, where it comes from, but everyone gets $1,000, and this is going to lift people out of poverty. Stockton, California, there is a private organization that has begun this to see if it'll work. Again, this has been tried. It doesn't work, but they're giving people $500 here, $500 there. Now, this to me, I remember one of the best Batmans ever, where Michael Keaton was Batman and Jack Nicholson was the Joker, and the way that he essentially trapped everyone in to becoming his victims is he had that parade where he just threw money out and people came running. And it was a scene that actually I felt was supposed to elicit a sense of almost disgust of how people, anyone that promises some free money, they'll come running without any regard to the details. And I feel like that's what we've become. We've got these people running for president and say, oh, we'll just give you free money. And I'm like, that sounds like a good idea. I don't need to know where it came from, what the reason for it is, other than you're going to give me free money. But one of the things I've learned when it comes to the issue of poverty is not something that is dictated by the amount of money that a person gets on a paycheck. It is a mentality of what is done with that money. I have known people that make under $20,000 a year who have money set aside in case of an emergency, but then you see stories of athletes who are multimillionaires and they end up broken and homeless. And it's because of a mentality when it comes to money, and telling people you're just going to get free money every month does not change a person's mentality. So a person who is in poverty because they have a paycheck to paycheck mentality, simply giving them more money is not going to lift them out of poverty. That's just going to give them more money to spend on things that they don't need. So this idea that we are going to help people by giving them more money is, I think it's demeaning, for one, because it minimalizes what a human being is capable of. But I also recognize that it doesn't help. It doesn't help. It does not work. As much as a person might want to believe that it does, all it does is create a greater dependency. And in fact, and I'll read you, I've got it here, this story. I just want to read to you because I think this really personifies it. And they try to highlight, like a lot of journalists do, they have this story and they find a person who is a recipient of it. And they talk about Susie Garza, and she was a recipient of this nonprofit that's doing this experiment, $500 a month. And they wrote, Garza can spend the money however she wants. She uses $150 of it to pay for her cell phone bill, another $100 or so to pay off her dog's vet bill. She spends the rest on her two grandkids, buying them bags of chips at 7-Eleven. And she says, I've never been able to do that. I thought it was the coolest thing. And she mentions that, she used to be addicted to drugs, but she's not any longer. Well, now she's addicted. It's another addiction. But this, you can tell by her spending habits. This isn't an income issue for her. Here's a woman who is getting $500 extra. She's spending it on junk food for her grandkids, gifts on Amazon for her grandkids, vet bills for a dog. You don't have to have a dog. And $150 for a monthly bill on a phone. You don't. Yeah. And so this doesn't, and I'm not saying every person who is in poverty for this reason, but the vast majority of people who do not have wise spending habits. You want to lift people out of poverty, you get them with a financial counselor that puts them on some sort of strict spending, need-only basis based on the amount of income that they have. You don't just give them more free money. It's like a kid who has cavities, and instead of teaching them better dental hygiene, just giving them more candy.
Yeah, it is kind of hard to argue with that. If the mentality's not there, it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't really matter how much money you're going to give them. You got to get that mentality under control.
This is why also people who win the lottery, the way I look at money simply enhances your current behavior and attitude. If you're a person who is a philanthropist, and who is an investor, and you win $10 million, you are going to be more of a philanthropist, and you're going to be more of an investor. If you are somebody who spends money paycheck to paycheck as soon as you get it, and you win $10 million, you're going to blow that money. You're going to buy a car, and it is going to be gone within 6 months. It is not the amount of money you have. It is how you use it, and simply throwing money at people and thinking that is somehow going to improve anybody, it is, even if it's well intended, it so misses the mark and it compounds the problem.
All right, Nick, I got to go change my cell phone plan and get that under control.
Get a jitterbug.
Yeah, seriously, exactly. I'm really kind of getting a little sweaty here listening to you take me to task for all of my spending habits.
Now, don't get me wrong.
It's true. It's true.
But at the same time, I spend money on things I don't have to. But that's the decision I make. Now I also set aside, I create myself, and we do a budget where we spend this much on this much on this much on this. And I wasn't always that way. And I can tell you this, and I just get a little personal with it. I went, not changing income at all, just the way that my attitude when it comes to money. I went from a guy who didn't really have any savings and was not prepared for any sort of financial emergency to within a year's time having more money in savings than I thought I ever could have. And it had change in income didn't change one bit. It was just my attitude.
I have nothing to say. You can't argue with that. I don't think.
Oh, you could.
Well, you can. I mean,
Doesn't
but
mean
I
you're
think
right.
I think the fundamental truth of what you're saying is, regardless of how somebody ended up in the situation they're in, and almost irrespective of what government policy you're talking about, the individual has to have a plan and discipline and a sense of responsibility.
Yeah.
And you can't get around that. No matter what proposal you want to push through from a government standpoint, it doesn't matter. If you're going to have people with choices to spend the money on how they want to spend it, you have to get them in a mindset where they're being responsible with the money.
Yeah, and let me tell you, and for people who are watching this, there's a little check you can do for yourself. And I know because I was once upon a time this way. If you get your paycheck and you pay all your bills, and what you have left over you see as, oh, what can I do with this? You're not on the right path. If that's how you see, instead of that money, that's something you save aside, you have budgeted to put into savings or paying something off. If you see it as fun money, I have $250 till the end of the month that I can do whatever I want with, then your mind isn't in the right place to best maximize your financial position in life. It's a little self-check.
We need to get this as a series, kind of like getting your life in order with Nick.
Oh, Lord.
Hey, I'm telling you, I think there's potential. think there's potential there. Listen, buddy, thanks a lot for this. This is good.
All right. Thank you.
As always, we'll talk to you soon and see you on TV.
Yeah.
Nick Reed, thanks again.